Hi, everybody. I'm Betsy Kreider. I am with Be Creative Stamping. I am in central Pennsylvania in a small town called Reedsville. And welcome to our creative stamping collective, where we can watch, learn, and create together. So I'm going to show you my video tutorial, and I'm going to switch you down to my desktop here. There we go. We are using the Storybook Friends for March, and I just wanted to show you quickly the paper that you're going to need for this one. This is one of the sheets of the designer series paper, and we're using this carrot piece right here. So what you can do is you can cut this at 4 inches and then cut this piece out there. You cut this at 4 and then cut this at 6, and then you'll be able to cut that piece out. So you'll need that piece. You're also going to need this sheet that has the pretty little strawberries on it, but really what you're going to need is the piece that's on the back. We will be needing one of these little sets of bunnies, and I'll show you a little bit more of that. But what I did for this is these are so cute. Some of the dies will actually cut out. This is the stamp set that we're using. I'm going to use this brick wall. I'm going to use this little carrot patch, little carrot garden, and then the dies that go with it. Now, some of the dies actually will cut these out, so you could use the die to cut this out. I actually did some fussy cutting, and I actually cut this little set of bunnies out right here. And you can see that right here, that I cut out that little set of bunnies right here out of the paper. You could cut any series of bunnies that you want. I like the ones with the carrots here because my card's going to have carrots on it. So I did that with the fussy cutting. I also cut out this one up here that has the little one holding the basket full of carrots, and he's got a little carrot in his hand. So you can really pick and choose or use the dies and cut out a bunny directly, whatever way you want to do it. Okay. I also have some fluid 100 watercolor paper. You're going to want that, especially because we're doing some watercoloring. It works the best whenever you are watercoloring to hold the paper. So what we have here is I'm going to have a card base that is 8.5 by 5.5. And I'm going to go ahead and fold that. And then I also have my envelope, which I'll kind of set aside for now. My card base, I will have a piece of Calypso Coral that is 5 1/4 by 4, and then a piece of basic white that is 5 by 3 3/4. That's going to actually be for the inside, and I'll show you how to stamp that in a second. And then, of course, that carrot piece that I was just talking to you about. This measures approximately 5.5 by 2. And then there's a piece of old olive that you're going to want to have, which also is 5.5 by 1, so that these two are going to go together on your front right there. And I'll come back to that because I actually want to start watercoloring first, because we're going to want to allow this to dry a little bit. You want to have a couple paper towels on hand. You want to have one of the water painters on hand. And then the ink colors that we are using are going to be your crumb cake, mossy meadow, pool party, pecan pie, gray granite, and calypso coral. And I'm going to start with the pumpkin pie first, or pecan pie first. Pecan pie, get that right? Okay, pecan pie. And I'm going to start by building my little carrot garden, right? So it's got like this little hilly area where I've got these little carrots that are being grown in the dirt. So I'm going to get this here first, and I'm going to start to build that, and I'm going to come up a little bit. I'm not going right down to the bottom. I'm coming up a little bit, maybe a little less than halfway, and I'm stamping my first little image there with the garden. I'm going to ink again, and I'm going to come over here, and I'm actually going to layer that right over top. I can come over a little bit and layer that on top right there, so that it kind of looks like a continuous garden. And I'm going to do the same down here, but I want the hump where the hump is kind of coming into the middle. That's where I'm going to add the hump here, so that it kind of looks like the hills. I'm going to add one over here, and I'm going to add one over here. You actually can kind of, this little area here, you can kind of get underneath your paper a little bit just to get that. So there is my little carrot field, right? She's super cute. The next thing I want to do is I want to be able to mask this. I want to use the brick, and I'm going to get rid of my pecan pie here for a second. And I'm going to bring in my gray granite. Now the gray granite, I want to be able to stamp my wall, but I want to be able to see the wall behind my mountains, right? Or behind my little hills of dirt. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to mask this. So I'm going to bring in a Post-it note. Okay, actually, I'm going to bring in that pecan pie one more time here. I'm going to bring in my little hill. I've got a Post-it note. There's the sticky at the top, and I'm going to stamp my little hill, my little carrot hill. I'm going to stamp that right there. And actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that twice. Okay, so you'll probably need 2 of them. And I'm going to do this one as well. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to go ahead and cut out essentially a mask is what I'm going to cut out. So I'm going to grab my scissors and I'm just going to quickly kind of cut around those images. It doesn't have to be exact. Just cutting them out so that I can create a mask to go on the top of my little carrot hills here so that I can stamp my wall so that it looks like it's behind. All right, I won't do this for both of them. You kind of get the point here. Pretty easy. Don't overthink it. Don't make it super exact. It doesn't need to be. Our brick wall is just going to be behind our image. And I'm going to bring in this one right there. And then I'm going to cut that off. So there is my little mound. And you're going to do that twice. I already actually have that done. I always keep my extras. Like if I make any kind of mask like that, I tend to keep them in my stamp set so that I can bring them back out and use them again on a future card. So I already have one of those done. And I'm going to line this up right over top of my stamped image. Just like that. And then I'm going to bring my second one in and I'm going to line that one up as well. Now, if you have a little bit of a gap here where you think you might get, if your hills are a little further apart, if you have a little bit of gap, just bring another Post-it note in and kind of cover it up a little bit. And now I can stamp my wall. So I'm going to bring in my little brick wall and I'm going to start here in the center. And I'm going to bring that down like right about there. So there's the beginning of my brick wall. And the brick wall actually is open. If you look at this stamp, it's open on either side so that you can build a long wall as you go. So you want to kind of start in the center and then build your way out just by connecting the lines of your bricks or your stone, I guess it is. And I'm going to stamp that one right there. So now when I take this off, I have a brick wall behind my hill of carrots. Right? Super cute. If you needed to, if you felt like you were missing something right there, you could come in and add like another little brick in there, a little stone. I think it's fine the way it is. Now what we want to do is we want to do a little bit of coloring. We're going to do some watercoloring. I'm going to bring in my Calypso Coral first. And the easy way for me is that I want to be able to get like a watercolor wash at some point. So I'm going to actually use blocks for getting the ink out of my ink pads. Now you could just squeeze the pads together and use it there. I kind of like it on the block a little bit. So I'm just kind of tapping the corner of the block into that ink pad because I don't need a lot of ink, just a little. I'm going to do that with the Calypso Coral and I'm going to take my, my water painter here. I'm just going to get it a little wet and I'm going to actually drop a couple droplets of water right onto my block. That way I can pick it up that way. And I'm just going to color in very easily these little carrots. Just the little tops. And if you want to, if you feel like you have too much water, once you have it on there, let me see, make sure I got all my little tops going here. Usually I always miss one. Every time I've done this, I've missed a carrot top some point. I'm going to bring in a little paper towel and I'm just going to kind of tap that over top of it and it picks up that extra water. And now what I can do is I can go in a little bit darker, pick up some of that darker, and I can add a little darker shading to that. So it started out a little light. Now I'm adding a little bit more darker to it. And you're just building that ink and that color as you go. And that looks better, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let that dry for a second. I'm going to squeeze that Calypso coral out of there. I'm going to put that aside just in case I need it later. And I'm going to go ahead and bring in some Mossy Meadow. And I'm going to do the exact same thing that I just did. I'm going to bring in a block. I'm going to ink up like the corner of the block. I'm going to use my water painter to add a little bit of liquid there. Get that going. And then this one, I'm just going to color in the tops and the little leaves of all my little carrots coming out of the ground. Don't worry if they're not the same shade. That's okay. Just adding that there. If I have a little bit of pooled water, that's okay, because I'm going to kind of dab that off here in a second. There we go. Pretty easy, quick. Nice little. The nice thing with watercoloring is that there's no right way or wrong way. You're just kind of adding some color to it. We're adding some water to it. And then the more you play with watercoloring, the easier it kind of gets. And again, no right way or wrong way to do it. I'm going to add a little bit down here. Now there's my greens. I can again go ahead and just kind of tap that a little bit, get the extra water off, extra ink off, and then I can come in with the darker. And on these darker leaves, these ones that are kind of high, I can go ahead and add a little bit darker shading to those. Okay. And again, I'm not being super fancy here, just a little bit here and there, just to give it some darker shading. And again, you can bring this in, tap it a little bit, and that looks a little better, right? So that we've got a couple little different shades going on, right? And there actually is way back here on this brick wall, I don't know if you noticed it, but there is a little bit of green bush on that brick wall. And sometimes it's hidden and sometimes I get it. So if you see that little bush that's on the brick wall or the little vines that are on there, go ahead and do that. All right, and I'm just going to hit a couple little areas on here just to give them some little green spots. No right way or wrong way, just adding a little bit of color. See it so far? Look at those cute little carrots. All right, I'm going to clean out the green here from my brush. Now I'm going to bring in, I'm going to go ahead and do my brick wall. So I'm going to use the gray granite. I'm going to add some water to my block again and get some color going there. Might have had too much color there, water there. And I'm going to go ahead and color in my little wall. Just coloring in. Now I used water-based ink. The ink pads that I'm using are a water-based ink pad. So you don't want to go too heavy with the water or really watercolor, because what you're going to do is you're going to start to get like a muddy mess. So you just want to be kind of quick, fast with it. You just want to add a little bit of shading there. And then I'm going to bring in the darker. I'm going to pick up a little bit more of that ink on the edge. And I'm going to add some darker shading here so that my bricks have a little bit more texture to them, or my stones. Add a little bit of shading there. And there is my stone wall. And again, I can kind of tap that, and there's my stone wall. The last thing I'm going to do here, let me close that up so I don't get that in my hands. Last thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to bring in a little bit of crumb cake, and I'm going to do the same thing. Tap that in there. And I'm going to add some of this. And what I want to do is almost create like a wash. I'm going to create a wash with this down here towards the bottom. And I'm just kind of going like this very quickly, very lightly over that dirt, just to give it that little bit of a brown tone over top. Now, if you were doing this, I would maybe say to you, go ahead and just wait a couple seconds, wait a little bit till all of those various colors dry so that you don't get the Calypso Coral running into your green if you want a more defined look. And then the last one we're going to do here is going to be the Pool Party. And again, I'm going to stamp that on my block. Add some ink here. In the same exact way, I'm going to do a watercolor wash here. And I'm just going to, and this one, it's kind of, this is how I did this one. I just actually did droplets across, right? Little droplets of water here and there. And then I just went in and added those. Just kind of move that water around in that ink. And I wanted my sky, so I'm going this way. Like where's the dirt, I was going this way. The sky, I want to kind of go up with it. I want it to be a little lighter at the top, maybe a little darker down here towards the skyline so that I can get this. Look how cute, right? And again, no right way or wrong way to go about doing this. You're just adding that watercolor to it. Easy, right? So I've already gone ahead. I'm going to put that one aside, and I brought this. I'm going to bring this one in. This one is already done through the magic of television. We're going to go ahead and bring this one in that's already done. I'm going to bring back in my card, and I'm going to put these two pieces together. So I'm going to use a little bit of liquid glue here right at the top. And I'm going to glue this so that I just have a little bit showing of the old olive. There we go. And then this piece is going to go on our front. So I'm going to add again a little bit of liquid glue along the back. Putting this a little bit below center. A little bit below center, not quite center. Right there. Now I want to show you one other trick here with the die. So what you also have, we're going to have is a piece of Calypso Coral that is 4.5 by 3 1/4, 4.5 by 3 1/4. And what we want to do is we want to use the perennial postage dies, and we want to use this to die cut this piece that's going to go on the front, right? So we're going to bring in one of the dies. Let me pull the right one here. What you're going to do is you're going to bring it in, and this actually is not the right size, and I can't seem to put my hands on the right size one at the moment, but you'll get the same understanding of it. Actually, it's this one. I apologize. So what you're going to do is you are going to take this die, and you're going to line it up right against that edge, right? So I'm going to line it up right on the edge of the cardstock. Now you can see it's not the right size. It doesn't really fit the die well, but that's okay. I don't want it to. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of tape, and I'm going to run that through my die cutting machine. And when I get it back, it's going to look like that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the same die and I'm going to do it again, but this time I'm going to line it up in the other corner. So I'm actually making a rectangle. I'm making one, but it's going to be smaller than what the die actually has. So it didn't have a die that was the size I wanted. So I made it be the size I wanted by die cutting that so that now I get this. All right. So this is what it started as, and this is the size I ended up getting by using that just die cutting in those various corners. So I have this, and this little piece here is going to go right on there. Now, when you've watercolored it, it could bend up a little bit. So I'm just going to add a little extra adhesive around those edges because it does lift a little. And add that to my center. Like that. There we go. And then this is going to get dimensional right there in the center. Actually, a little bit to the top left is where that's going to go. One in the center there just for good luck. I'm going to go ahead and lift that off. And then this is going to go right about top left a little bit, right about there. Okay. Then what I have is I have also a piece of Calypso Coral that is 2 1/4 by 1. I'm using this die to go ahead and die cut that, but I'm also using this stamp that says "Some Bunny Loves You," which is super adorable. So I've already stamped that, and I did that with the pecan pie. And I've stamped that and I die cut that out. And I'm going to use that here. And so you can see how like one side's going to be flat, but this side's going to be raised because this is already on dimensional. So I'm going to add a dimensional just to this side. There we go. Right like that. Okay. We also have some linen thread, which I'll bring in here in a second. Now's when you can bring in your fussy cut little and your little bunny, whether you use the dies to cut it or whether you take your scissors and you fussy cut that out. You can see I just cut around the little bunny. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my bunny down into that little seam. But this is kind of white, right? Whereas I have the dirt and I want to make sure they're kind of blending into that dirt. So I'm going to bring back in that crumb cake a little bit. And I'm actually going to watercolor on them a little. So I'm going to water that up a little bit. And I'm just going to really lightly just kind of color in around them just to lighten up that paper a little bit so that it's not quite so stark around the edges. All right, so that makes them look like they're also in that scene. And also what I could do is if I want their white to blend in with the blue, I could bring in the pull party again. And I can kind of color around the white areas where I fussy cut. Or if you did any die cutting, you have white areas around them. You can kind of add the blue so that, again, they're kind of blending in with your background. So there is that. And these guys are going to go right there. So now it kind of blends in a little bit more. It's not quite so stark. So I'm going to add some dimensionals to the back. I just think these bunnies are adorable. This whole suite, I think, is so pretty between the paper, the two different stamp sets and dies, the antique pearls, which I'm going to show you here in a second. I think the whole thing is just so pretty. So I'm going to bring this in. We're going to put that right there so that we have our little bunnies in our scene. Isn't that cute? Okay. And then last thing here is we're going to use this. We're going to use this greeting, and I'm going to grab my stamp and seal here. And I'm going to add some seal to this because I want to add my twine behind it. So I'm going to peel off this, and I'm just going to kind of create almost like a figure 8 kind of thing. I'm just going to have a loop and another loop. And there's no right way of doing this, no wrong way of doing it. It's just kind of adding a loop to have some little dimension to the back of it. Now I can kind of tuck this in right about there and add that to my front. And there's my little greeting. Isn't that cute? And then the last thing I have, I think they're buried here on my desk, are the pearls. These are the antique pearls. They're so pretty. And I'm going to add one large one maybe up here. I'm going to add a small one there. And then I'm going to add one over here so that I have some pearls on there. What do you think? Do you like it? I hope so. And then the last part is to go ahead and do something for your inside. I'm going to go ahead and just stamp again with my my little rabbit, my little carrot farm here. I'm going to put in my carrots in the inside, and I'm going to do that again on my envelope. You could choose to color those if you wanted to, or you could leave them plain just as they are. I'm going to add this to my inside. Here we go. Perfect. There you go. I love it, right? Don't you love it? And then when I originally started doing this, I also did it with a gray granite base. So you'll have to let us know which one you like better. But this just shows you what you can do. And you have all of those various images that you can fussy cut out. There's so many bunnies on there to choose. I hope that you'll play with it. So let me go ahead and bring me back in. So thank you very much for getting this this tutorial bundle. We are so excited to be bringing this to you. We have 12 amazing demonstrators, and I can't wait to see what everybody's doing. And thank you for participating or buying the tutorial or getting it for free with a $60 order. And definitely check in with us next month to see what we're going to be doing next month for the next tutorial bundle. So this is the Creative Stamping Collective. And I hope that you were able to watch, learn, and that you were able to craft and create at home. Thanks, everybody.